You may have noticed that the PlayStation 3 Sly Cooper games aren't getting many mods. This video will explain why, and as simply as possible. Before we begin, there's 4 basic concepts you need to understand. Pointers, conditionals, freezing, and endianness. Don't worry, it's not as complicated as it sounds. What are pointers? To put it simply, pointers are memory addresses that take you to other memory addresses in a very different location. We'll use Google Maps as a comparison. Let's just say you like a specific restaurant and want to head directly there. You know exactly where it is, but upon arriving, you find out that it closed and moved to a different location. How would you handle that? Simple, you'd use Google Maps. Google Maps is always in the same location, its website, and it can accurately point you to the restaurant's location regardless of where it is. You just need to take a few turns here and there to reach it. For an in-game example of pointers, we'll use SlyTools black cutscene bars. In Episode 8, the activation for the bars is located at this memory address. However, if you go into a different episode, this address no longer works, as it's moved to a different location in memory. Therefore, we need to use a pointer to keep track of it. This is the pointer used to always have the location of the activation for the black bars. It's not as complicated as it looks. The address next to the green number 1 is our Google Maps. It's always in the same location. The value next to the blue number 2 is the route you have to take to get to the restaurant. The address highlighted in blue is the restaurant's current location, that box always showing its location, even if it's changed. Sometimes the restaurant can be difficult to reach, so you need to take lots of routes to get there, but you do always get there. What are conditionals? Basically, they're events that need to happen before something is set. As another real-life comparison, we'll use a car. The car is not going to start on its own. However, if the key is in the ignition, and the key is turned, then the car starts. As an in-game example, we'll use a small mod I made to lower the job failed screen, so you can continue playing. The blue number 1 checks if you're holding the R1 button, or in other words, putting the key in the ignition. The blue number 2 checks if select is pressed, or if you've turned the key. If both of the blue number checks are successful, the job failed screen is lowered, or the car starts. These checks are the conditionals. There can be any number of checks and any number of results. What is freezing? Freezing means preventing a value from changing at all. PCSX2's cheat system does this by default, however it has an optional mode to set the value once when the game starts and then leave it alone, but that's almost never useful for anything. Finally, what is endianness? As a real-life example, we'll use languages, specifically English and Hebrew. If you look at any English text, like the text on screen right now, you read it from left to right. However, Hebrew is read from right to left. Both make sense to the people that know how to read them, but to the other they seem backwards. This is an incomplete comparison, so it's best if we look at the in-game example. One memory address in SlyTools for the PlayStation 2 has the value of 00000002. However, the PlayStation 2 uses little endian, which stores this value as 02000000. In the PlayStation 3 release of SlyTools, there is another memory address with the same value as before. However, the PlayStation 3 uses big endian, so it stores this as 00000002. If this is incorrectly read as little endian, the PlayStation 3 would think it's a value of 33,554,432, which is very incorrect. Now that you understand pointers, conditionals, freezing, and endianness, I can now properly explain why the PlayStation 3 Sly Cooper games aren't getting the same modding attention as the PlayStation 2 releases. There's 2 major reasons for this: cheat engine, and our PS3. First, cheat engine. Despite its name, cheat engine is most commonly used as an advanced debugger for computer applications. From bug testing to reverse engineering, it's an invaluable tool. However, most if not all computer applications use little endian, so it's primarily designed for that. Unfortunately, while you can add custom big endian search functionality, which is what allowed me to make Bentley endlessly hover, its pointer functionality only supports little endian. You cannot simply make a plugin or an add-on for this. The only way to add it is to program it directly into the source code. This task was added to the developer's to-do list many years ago, but has seemingly sat there making no progress. Since nearly everything in the PlayStation 3 releases constantly change locations in memory, and Cheat Engine doesn't support big endian pointers, we can't even begin to make advanced mods. Next, RPCS3. RPCS3 is the most advanced, and possibly only, PlayStation 3 emulator, and all 4 Sly Cooper games are fully playable from start to finish. While RPCS3 does have an extremely advanced patch system, it has no support for conditionals or freezing addresses. When asked why, they state, they're not useful for the average user. They have better things to be working on, such as making broken games not broken. After all, the emulator is still in early alpha testing. Someone once made a custom build capable of this many years ago, however no one can seem to build it without errors, and it's horribly outdated. It seems there's zero interest in adding these features. With no way to properly document memory, and no way to load the kind of mods we make, there's really no way to make the mods you see on PCSX2. However, I'd be silly to not mention SlyTools. SlyTools is a toolset to extract, modify, and rebuild the data archive for the first 3 PlayStation 3 Sly Cooper games. While you can't do much with what's inside, you can do audio swaps and some other tweaks. The PlayStation 2 releases have no defined files, which is why the discs look empty. As for Thieves in Time, this game has the potential to be modded more than any of the previous 3. Not only does it use an engine other games use, but it can read game files when they're extracted from its data archive, making repacking pointless. With that in mind, why hasn't it been modded yet? Unfortunately, the number of modders that both appreciate Thieves in Time well enough to mod it, and aren't busy modding other games, is precisely 0. Try bringing up Thieves in Time modding, and you'll be met with hope from me, and a negative sentiment from others. That's just the way it is. I hope this explains why we can't have things like the Murray and Prague mod on PS3, or even something as simple as a fly hack in Thieves in Time. I might have gotten a few details slightly wrong, but it's correct enough to be a proper explanation.